What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sugar Creek. We're here at Garaway High School for Week 7 of Stadium Drive. Will Ford, Aaron Sprague, and we've got two undefeated teams on tap for you tonight. The Garaway Pirates 6-0 against the Indian Valley Braves 6-0, and this is a pivotal matchup in the IVC, Aaron, because you have Garaway, you have Indian Valley, and of course Ridgewood also 6-0, so a combined 18-0 between those three teams. They play each other over the next couple of weeks. We've got this game tonight, and it's a pretty big one. A lot of implications on the line.
Yeah, I mean, from a statistical standpoint across the state of Ohio, this is one of the biggest games in the state. Two undefeated teams and a lot of streaks on the line tonight. Statistically speaking, these two teams have been phenomenal the last few years. Some of these stats courtesy of our guy Drew Pastor at fantastic50.net. Unbelievable website for football junkies out there. If you are a football person, you already know about the site, but if you're not, get to know the site. It has a lot of great data on there. But some of the facts to point out, one is the fact that Garaway's won 28 straight home games. That's number one in Ohio. That's on the line tonight. They've won 35 regular season games in a row. That's number 2 in Ohio, only to Marion Local. Defensively, the Pirates have held 47 consecutive opponents to 30 points. Under 30 points.
Yeah.
That's number 1 right now in Ohio. And their last 21 teams under 20 points. That's tied for number 1. Garaway has some stuff going on here.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Then you go back on the other side, Indian Valley. They've been phenomenal. They're averaging 48 points per game and have scored 30-plus in each of their last 12 games. That's the state's longest active streak.
Something's got to give tonight then, right?
Yes, something has to give tonight. And then that's not even talking about really the one of the real things we want to see tonight is the running back from Garaway.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, you mean Indian Valley.
Yeah, Indian Valley.
Indian Valley. Well, and Garaway has a great
Yes.
running back in their own right, Dylan Sunland. He's been great all year. But Grady Kinsey for Indian Valley, he is the state's leading rusher, 1,400 yards, 21 touchdowns. But he's number 4 in the nation.
In all of America.
And all of America on the ground.
He's a junior.
And, yeah, he's only a junior. I got to talk to Coach Matt Lancaster. We'll play that interview for you later in the show. But, I mean, obviously it's a credit to how talented Grady is. But he said, too, they've got a lot of depth and talent on the offensive line. I think 5 or 6 guys that returned from last year's team. So there's a lot of continuity up front. And I think that's a big part of the reason why Grady's had some significant success this year, being the number 1 rusher in the state and number 4 in the country. And but he's got a tough test tonight because Garaway's defense, they've only allowed 34 points all year. You mentioned the streak of allowing teams to under 30 points. Indian Valley's offense is going to be tested tonight, but Garaway's defense is going to be tested in a way that they haven't been tested so far either. So it's going to be an interesting battle tonight.
I mean, on paper, it's about as good as you get, and if it's not tight, I mean, I'd be surprised. Garaway protects their home turf well. They're so well prepared. Indian Valley has a fantastic program under Coach Lancaster. And on top of all of that historical stuff within the state and streaks, this could be, or it's really going to control the IVC title race.
Yes.
I mean, Ridgewood's also undefeated, and all these teams still have to play.
Right.
But obviously this game is very pivotal in that race.
Yeah, and I believe Indian Valley and Ridgewood play the following in Week 8. So, I mean, that's what a turnaround for Indian Valley. You play Garaway, and you see what happens here, but then you got to turn around and play a Ridgewood team that has been shutting people out all year long. So it's going to be insane. But that's the game we're at tonight. We're also featuring another game in our coverage area, a game in the OCC between 2 5-1 teams, the Upper Arlington Golden Bears, led by Justin Buttermore, and then John Sansbury's Olentangy Liberty Patriots, both teams 5-1. And, you know, we just started OCC play last week, so things are starting to ramp up, and both of those teams have been playing really well. And, you know, we've been with Buttermore a long time, kind of since his Tri-Valley days. But, I mean, his Golden Bears, they put together probably the best game they've played all season, all 3 phases. And, I mean, the OCC, always tough, maybe the best conference in the state, tons of talent. But Buttermore and Sansbury, that's going to be a good matchup tonight in Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, games in the OCC are always tough, and Coach Sansbury, they've done a great job with Liberty this year. Winning that region is going to be tough all around. Yeah. But you almost never know who's going to win on any given night.
Right.
It will be interesting to see how Coach Justin Buttermore dials up his traditionally strong defense to try to slow down Liberty. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard game to pick.
And they've pitched 3 straight shutouts defensively. Yeah, and so that's a tough challenge. But Olentangy Liberty has an offense, and you know, two guys in particular, their quarterback, Andrew Leonard, and then Jake Struck, their running back, who's a do-it-all type of guy. He lines up everywhere on the field. He even throws the ball sometimes. That's going to be a unique challenge for Buttermore, something that he hasn't faced in a while, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome game. Looking forward to it. Like Will said, we have interviews with both head coaches. We weren't able to catch up with Coach Wallach this week. He's incredibly busy, as you can imagine.
He's a busy guy, but who knows? Maybe if he's wandering around here, I might try to snag him off the sideline for a few minutes. But if not, that's okay. I love talking to Coach Wallach, though, and he's a busy guy. But we'll hop into interviews from the OCC game that we're featuring tonight, Olentangy Liberty and Upper Arlington. We'll start with head coach Justin Buttermore of the Golden Bears, 5-1 on the year, played their best game of the year last week. And let's hear from him right now on Stadium Drive, Week 7. Thanks for being here, live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. And here is Coach Buttermore. Well, Justin Buttermore with the Upper Arlington Golden Bears is joining us on Stadium Drive for Week 7. Thanks for being here, Coach. I really appreciate your time, as always. And I want to start with the game last week against Hilliard Bradley, a team that I'm sure you remember they prevented you from making a Final Four push last year, but you were able to shut them out last week. Dominant win. Wally had 2 touchdowns receiving. The offense looked really balanced, but the defense, as always, it was just top notch. I mean, talk about the performance on both ends of the ball. Even special teams, you had a block punt for a touchdown as well. Just talk about the kind of all 3 phases and what went into that dominant win against Bradley last week.
Yeah, it was great to see. Quite honestly, we hadn't put a full game together. I felt like we'd been kind of good in some areas and some spots week to week, but I hadn't felt like in 6 weeks we'd put a full game together. And last week, for the first time, we played great defensively, played outstanding offensively, played a much more physical brand of football, and put together some sustained drives, which we really hadn't done. So, that was really great to see. And special teams wise, guys are doing a great job. They're buying into how important that phase of the game is. And Noah Gellert had a big play, block, and scoop and score for a touchdown last week. So, all 3 phases of the game came together. It was an ugly night in terms of weather, and that probably played into the hands a little bit because Bradley really likes to throw the ball downfield. And that was difficult with the wind more than the rain. So, there were some factors involved, but it was good to see for the first time our guys play a complete game.
What's been the secret the last 3 weeks to the 3 consecutive defensive shutouts?
Well, I think we just played, number one, we haven't given up big plays. I mean, that's, if you can stay away from chunk plays, then teams have to drive the ball 60, 70, 80 yards. And I don't care how good of an offense you are. It's difficult to do that at every level, at the college level, at the pro level. If you force a team to drive the ball and don't give up big plays, it becomes difficult to score. And we're not going to shut everybody out, obviously, but our guys have really done a good job of preventing the big plays. And we know that the schedule only gets more difficult. So, there's going to be a lot of big playmakers, including tonight, that we're going to have to deal with. But we've done a good job of keeping everything in front of us and just playing solid team football. It's been a different guy every week or different guys every week. But as a whole, we have 11 guys that are really running the football and playing well.
Yeah. Now, talking about the schedule, obviously up next tonight, you've got Olentangy Liberty. Their only loss this year is to Berlin, and it was by 1 point. So, I mean, they've been in every game, and they've dominated most games that they've played. But one guy that obviously sticks out, I'm sure you've been looking at him on film all week, is Jake Struck. Just kind of a do-it-all type of player. He plays running back, but they can put him all over the field. He can catch the ball. They even kind of put him in at that option quarterback sort of role. He can throw it sometimes. I mean, they do literally everything with him. What's the plan defensively? Do you have one guy that just kind of follows him wherever he goes? How do you kind of match up with him and sort of you may not be able to stop him, but how do you limit his impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a great team. They really should be 6-0. Berlin played a great game against them, but realistically, Liberty was up 21-7 and just kind of made a few mistakes on the stretch that allowed Berlin to get back in it, much like Berlin did against us, quite honestly. But Struck is outstanding. He's not their only great player. The quarterback's a 3-year starter. And
of course.
He's terrific. Number 3 at wide receiver is a terrific. You can tell he's just explosive with speed. But I do think Struck moving around has made them a little more dynamic. It makes it difficult to know where he's going to be. I think you just have to be aware at all times where he is. He's obviously a big part of the offense. But at the same time, I don't know that they would see it as using him as a decoy, but there's times where they don't go to him. So you got to be careful not overcommitting to him because they've got other explosive players. But we've got to be aware of where he is at. He can hurt you from anywhere, and he has hurt us the last 2 years. He's an outstanding player. And like I said, I think, he's as good as we have in this entire league as a player. So, we have to find a way to, like you said, maybe not stop him completely, but we got to find a way to contain him and tackle him. He's very, very powerful when he gets the ball, whether it's on the perimeter or whether from the running back position or at, like I said, wildcat quarterback. But he's very explosive. He's tough to tackle. And even, the one big touchdown he had against Glenville, Glenville kid hit him at the line of scrimmage, but people bounce off of him. A very strong runner. And so we've got to get multiple guys to him when he's got the ball.
Now, with your offense tonight, I mean, and I guess just kind of in general, the play of your quarterback, Kyle, and, Wally had a couple of touchdowns, last week. What have you like about just kind of the balance of your offense? Because the running game is working well as well. But I guess, with those guys playing well, what have you seen and kind of what serves you best, do you think, tonight? Maybe it is balanced, but do you lean one way or the other, pass or run?
Well, I think you have to be balanced, especially against Liberty. They're extremely good defensively. Liberty is every year like a carbon copy of the last year. I mean, they have new players, but and they have some obviously returning guys, but they're like a carbon copy, which I think that's what you want. That's what well-coached programs and teams are like. Year to year, it's very consistent with what you get. So they play really physical and fast. Defensively, they get downhill and come at you. I think you have to be balanced, but there's no doubt we have to be able to move the ball in the run game. I think that was the biggest difference last week. We were able to sustain drives because we were more successful in the run game. We've been able to hit some big plays throughout the course of the year, but we have not been able to sustain drives with the running game, and that's the difference, and that's what we're going to have to do again tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Does back half of the season, does the sense of urgency kind of pick up? Do you kind of feel a sort of shift? I mean, every game's important and you want to win every game, but like once you kind of start inching closer to week 10, does the sense of urgency among you and the guys and the coaching staff kind of pick up? Is that kind of the message every week like going forward?
Yeah, I think our kids have a good understanding, and they don't all have it when they come in as sophomores, but I think our older kids have a great understanding of how good our league is, not just the players and the teams, but it's good program after good program, and it's good coach after good coach. So you hate to say it, but those first 5 weeks in some ways are a warm-up, and you want to win every game, but the first 5 weeks are in a lot of ways a warm-up to get us ready for our league play, because every game is a grind. If you come out and are not prepared or don't play your best on a given night, you're going to lose in our division. I mean, our division is that good, and I feel like it's like that nearly every year. So, I think our kids understand it. We talked about the importance of the league going into the Bradley game last week, and just kind of, these are familiar opponents. We know each other better than anybody else, and so because you play each other year after year. So I think there's definitely a little different feel. Our kids know these players from the other teams much better than they do some of our opponents from the first 5 weeks, because we play them year after year, and so. I don't know if it's a sense of urgency, but just a sense that we've got to go out and play our best because our best is going to be required over the next 5 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're set up for a pretty good one tonight, Coach, between you and Liberty. But thanks for taking time, 7 or 8 minutes to talk some football with me, man. Best of luck, not only tonight but the rest of the way, and just keep grinding, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate all you do, man.
Coach Justin Baltimore of the Upper Arlington Golden Bears on Stadium Drive for Week 7. They get ready to take on the Patriots, and we'll take a look at the Patriots side of things briefly, and we'll show an interview with head coach John Sansbury before we dive into the meat and potatoes of Garaway Indian Valley here tonight. Really appreciate all of you tuning in live on Facebook, X, and YouTube for Stadium Drive High School football on a Friday night, and pretty good weather down here in Sugar Creek. And later on in the show, we'll go through the rest of the schedule as well, other games going on in our coverage area. But the Patriots, 5-1 on the year. A close win last week against Kaufman, 19-15, I believe the score was. Close win. Their only loss on the year is to Berlin by 1 point, and that was a game they actually were leading 21-7, I believe. And then Berlin was able to fight hard in the second half, come back, win that game. But outside of that, Liberty has been solid all year, led by 31 seniors. Andrew Leonard, Jake Struck, who Sansbury believes is the best player that he's ever coached, and I'll let him tell you why. Here is head coach John Sansbury of the Olentangy Liberty Patriots on Stadium Drive, Week 7. Awesome. Well, we're here with John Sansbury with the Olentangy Liberty Patriots ahead of Week 7. 5-1 on the year, Coach. First of all, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate your time today. But 5-1 on the year, your only loss is to Berlin by 1 point. You had a tough win, close win, 19-15 against Kaufman last week. Overall, what's been the key to success for your team this year? Obviously, the close win last week, but you've really been playing good football, it seems like, for the majority of the season.
Yeah, we've for most of our games been solid with taking care of the ball and enforcing some takeaways as well. Being consistent really in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. Offense, we've been able to run the ball and throw the ball. It helps when you have a quarterback that's a 3-year starter. And we got some playmakers like Jake Struck, Christian Moulton, and really our offensive line has been outstanding this year. That's been probably our biggest improvement from last year. Defense has been solid. We got a lot of experience and seniors playing on that side of the ball. And then our special teams has been consistent as far as making plays. Coach Samaglia, our special teams coordinator, really doing a good job.
Now, I listened to 97.1 The Fan a couple weeks ago, and I caught a snippet of what you were saying, your interview with those guys, and you said that Jake Struck might be or is the best football player that you've ever coached. And you've coached a lot of guys in your time. You've had a lot of great players over the years. But why is he the one out of all the other guys? Obviously, he's a lacrosse commit at OSU next year. But like, why is he the guy?
Yeah, this is my 16th year at Liberty, so we've had a lot of good players. He just is a guy that can kind of do everything. That's probably why I said that. I mean, he's a big kid. He's 6'1", 210 pounds. He's fast. He's strong. He can make you miss. He can run you over. He can catch. He can play inside receiver, outside receiver, running back. We use him on defense. He returns punts. He's a good athlete. I mean, he plays hockey. He's an even better lacrosse player, and he's just ultra competitive. And he's a tough kid. So, I just think he's an outstanding football player, talent-wise, and just kind of how much he can do, different things he can do.
I'm sure he loves getting a ton of touches every single week at receiver, running back. Obviously, you're using him everywhere else as well. But it's nice to have guys like that. I mean, obviously, as a coach, you probably want to have 11 starters on each side of the ball and not have guys play a ton, just to save their legs throughout a long course of a season. But Jake is the kind of kid I feel like that just relishes being on the field at all times.
Yeah, he always wants to be involved. He's go kind of a guy. And like I said, he's one of the most competitive kids I've seen, where anything that we're doing competitive, he hates losing, wants to win, like a lot of our guys are, but he's just kind of at the next level.
Yeah, definitely. Well, up next on the schedule is Upper Arlington, and they've had a stellar last 3 weeks. Coach Buttermore and that defense have pitched 3 straight shutouts. They've also scored at least 30 points in the last couple of games, and they've scored more and more points each week of the season as well. So the offense is also hitting its stride. But when you look at their defense, and obviously you've got a really talented offensive line that's really gelling. You have Jake and Andrew and a lot of playmakers. But when you match up against UA's defense, what does film say as far as, what puts your guys in the best positions to succeed on Friday?
Well, we definitely have our hands full. We did a little math here. They've outscored their opponents 110-0 the last 3 weeks. So that pops out right away, obviously. But they're solid everywhere. Every year we play them, Coach Buttermore, they're kind of known for their defense, being very tough, at all levels. Their D-line is always very good. Their linebackers and outside linebackers are always very good, and their DBs. And, they mix up their coverages. They do a good job of that. They got a very good football player at defensive line, number 97. So we're going to have our hands full with him. He's a big-time player, and we faced him the last few years. But they're just sound, right? There's no glaring holes or weaknesses, and they're going to make you earn every single yard that you get against them, like they always do. And those are always very difficult defenses to go against. So we're going to have to be, we're going to have to get creative. We're going to have to win one-on-one battles. We're going to have to give our guys the ball in space and let them make plays, and just keep chasing first downs like we've been able to do this year. And opportunities will arise if we do that. But yeah, it's a very difficult defense to prepare for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Buttermore's one of the great defensive minds I think we've ever seen in Ohio high school football, without a doubt. But when you look at the offensive side of the ball for them too, it seems like, they're putting up points in bunches now. Like you mentioned the scoring totals the last couple of weeks. And maybe last year they weren't so much a high scoring team. They really relied a lot on their defense and they kept games a lot of low scoring. But now it seems like they could compete in a shootout with a team if they needed to and put up points. How do you defend their offense? Because their passing game, it seems like, is really kind of hit a stride. Kyle Cox has really developed as a passer. It seems like he's got some good weapons on the outside that seems like he trusts. But when you look at their offense, what do you see?
Exactly what you're saying. They've got a lot of experience back. It's always nice having a quarterback come back on your offense like we have, and they have the same situation. So, he's a senior quarterback. He's experienced. He takes care of the football, makes good choices. He can throw it. He's got a couple good receivers that can move. As far as they throw the ball vertical, they'll throw the short screens. They'll throw everything in between, making us have to cover, the entire length of the field and width of the field. They use some, heavier packages with the tight end and H-back and an extra offensive lineman. And they want to run the ball, and they've got a good, strong running back. And then another one that's a fast one, so they got multiple running backs that can play. And a lot of their offensive line is back from last year, and they're big, strong kids. And when you got kind of guys that can play at all positions, and you can do a lot, and that's why they're scoring a lot of points.
Yeah. No, and it was a close one last year. I think it was 19-16 in overtime. You guys slipped in that one last year, but I think we're set up for what should be a great game tomorrow between 2 5-1 teams. So the next edition of this matchup, we'll see how it goes. But Coach, thanks for taking 6 or 7 minutes out of your day to hop on a podcast and talk some Liberty football, man. And I wanted to give you guys some love here in Week 7. So really appreciate your time today.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate it. And go Patriots.
A big thank you to John Sansbury for joining us on Stadium Drive this week, along with Coach Justin Buttermore, to preview Liberty versus UA tonight. Should be a good one. That one's at Upper Arlington. But here is the last 10 between Garaway and Indian Valley. We'll return our focus now to the game we're at tonight here in the IVC. Garaway leads this all-time series 12-8. And if we take a look, the last 4 years, Garaway has won in this series. 35-14, 17-0, 14-0, and 34-19. Then a streak of 3 for the Braves from 2017 to 19, and then back and forth 14, 15, and 16. So the back half of the last 10 years dominated by Garaway. They lead through 20 games at 12-8. And in the last 4 meetings between these 4 teams, Garaway's outscored Indian Valley 100-33. So I think this year, though, might be a little bit different. I think this is going to be a lot closer of a game than it was last year, just given the potency of Indian Valley's offense, their rushing attack. And let me tell you what, man, Grady Kinsey, we touched on it at the beginning. Grady Kinsey is number 1 in the state of Ohio in rushing. 1,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, but he's also number 4, in the entire country in rushing on max preps. So he is just an absolute beast. Indian Valley has an incredible offensive line. Their quarterback also averages 90 yards rushing a game. They average over 400 yards rushing as a team, 237 yards a game by Grady Kinsey. And we'll show you the numbers here so you can actually get a look at it. So you don't have to take my word for it. Take a look at the numbers for yourself. 2024 season stats for one of the nation's best 1,427 rushing yards, 237 yards per game. He's averaging a first down on every touch, almost 14 yards a carry, and as I mentioned, the 21 rushing touchdowns. But he is top in the state in rush yards and rushing touchdowns, number 4 in rush yards in the country, and then near the top in touchdowns as well. Grady Kinsey, an absolute beast. He's going to get the rock a lot tonight, of course, being the premier back, the premier player on this offense. And it's going to be a real challenge for this Garaway team. Didn't get a chance to talk to head coach Jason Wallach this week. Just really busy, as always, as all of these football coaches are. But I have a lot of love for Wallach and his program, and specifically his defense. Been rock solid all year. Only allowed 34 points. They haven't allowed more than 13 points at all this season. And they have a streak going of not allowing more than 30 points. The defense is the staple of the Garaway Pirates, but they also have a great running back themselves in Dylan Sunland. Small but mighty. Maybe one of the smallest football players in the area, but just a strong runner, kind of slippery, can break tackles very easily and rip off a big run. And, of course, their quarterback that transferred in last year. It's his second year in the system with Wallach, Brady Geibel. He does things with his arm that not a lot of quarterbacks can do in the area. So, but they're going to be tested tonight. And we'll hop into our interview with head coach Matt Lancaster of the Indian Valley Braves. Talks about facing this Garaway defense that has just been so strong, traditionally strong the last couple of years, but this year in specific with the guys that they have. Because if you think about it, Garaway, they graduated a lot of kids on their defense. They're not returning a lot of defensive starters from last year's state Final Four team. So it's a lot of new faces in that front seven, and they might be just as good, if not better. So Matt Lancaster's going to talk about the play of his running back Grady Kinsey as well as that offensive line, his young quarterback, a sophomore, but then the challenge of going up against Garaway, and also this race in the IVC between the Braves, the Pirates, and the Ridgewood Generals. All three teams 6-0 to this point in the season. But here is head coach Matt Lancaster of the Indian Valley Braves. And we are here with Matt Lancaster with the Indian Valley Braves going into Week 7, undefeated on the year, and they're going to take on the undefeated Garaway Pirates in what's going to be a huge battle in the IVC. And Coach, I appreciate you joining our show once again this year. And I want to start with your rushing attack, because this year it's been absolutely unstoppable. 410 rushing yards a game. Your junior running back Grady Kinsey, he's averaging 230 yards a game rushing. He's got 1,400 yards on the ground, which is not only the top in Ohio, but it's 4th in the country. 21 touchdowns. What has been the story, with him? Like, what are you feeding him, and what are you feeding your offensive linemen to be able to run the ball so well?
Grady's Grady. He's probably the hardest working kid that's come through the program. And that's saying a lot, because we've had some hard working kids. He had a really great off season, and he's pound for pound the strongest kid we've ever had come through our program, and that's saying a lot for him just being a junior. So he's a hard working kid, a great young man. He also you talk about his numbers, but he's got a 4.2 GPA, and does everything right. Carries himself well off the field as well. And went to a lot of camps this summer, and just worked really hard. But he'll tell you too, give a lot of credit to the offensive line. We got 4 out of 6 guys back from last year up front, and we've developed some depth there. So those guys have come along too, and he wouldn't go very far without them. So that group's been gelling pretty well, and there's some other threats to go around him offensively that the team's got to honor. So he's having a great year so far, and we look for him to continue that. We know it's going to be a tough test. So this Friday, different animal in this Garaway defense.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get to the Garaway matchup here in a minute, but I also want to kind of touch on your quarterback too. He's a sophomore, but he's averaging 90 yards rushing on the ground. So only 5 touchdown passes on the year, but you're not asking him to do too much maybe through the air, because that rushing game is so good. But what have you liked about just the things that you do ask him to do, along with just the complement of using his legs alongside Grady?
Yeah, especially just being a sophomore. Riker's come along. pretty well this year after losing our starter for the last 3.5 years in Sam Carter. Riker, we think he's going to be pretty good, and he's taking steps towards that this year. He can do things with his feet, but he can also extend plays, and he keeps his eyes downfield, and he can hurt you through the air too. So we're not asking him to do a whole lot. Just facilitate the offense and take what the defense is giving him and make plays when he can. But he has done some nice things this year where he's extended plays and done some pretty special things. So we'll definitely need him again, moving forward to continue to grow, continue to make good decisions.
Now, with this Garaway defense, they didn't return very many starters from their Final Four team last year, but they are still just as good, if not even better. They've only allowed 34 points all season. I mean, what's the key to kind of getting your offense and that running game going early, and just kind of chipping away at that defense, because they haven't given up more than 13 points all year, and you guys score 43 points a game, I think it is.
Yeah. Coach Hostetler, their defense coordinator, does a great job. Coach Walk, all their coaches do a tremendous job. They're so well coached, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't return many starters the year before that, and yet their defense was lights out last year too. So they just continue to rebuild on the defensive side of the ball. Big key with that is they like to slant and angle up front a lot and confuse the offensive line. So our offensive line is going to have to communicate and do a good job on picking them up. They like to penetrate into the backfield and create havoc. And their kids get after it. They're a tough physical group, and they are assignment sound. So it's going to be a big challenge on Friday night. And we know that going in.
This environment, I think, is going to be just crazy, over in Garaway. I mean, it's a playoff atmosphere. Both of you are undefeated. And really, I mean, like, if you look at you, Garaway, and Ridgewood, combined 18-0, and there's really a lot on the line the last couple weeks of the season. You've got, Ridgewood, obviously, the following week after this. But what do you kind of make of this race to the top of the IVC? Who wins the IVC crown? And just kind of the top end of the IVC and how good it's been, you, Garaway, and Ridgewood?
Yeah, it's been like that for a couple years. We've been knocking on the door. It's been Garaway's for the last couple years, and they've kind of run the show in the IVC. Before that, it was Ridgewood, and now all three are kind of there this year, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting, that's for sure. It's a big playoff atmosphere. It's going to be this Friday night, and I know there'll be a lot of people there outside of both the communities because a lot of interest in this game. So two good high school football teams. We'll be going at it on Friday night. Both of them will be giving their all, and I know it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one too, Coach. Thanks for hopping on today and spending 5 or 6 minutes talking up some football with me. And I appreciate it as always. And we're looking forward to what should be a really good game. And best of luck this Friday, but also the rest of the season. And hopefully you guys can claim the IVC crown and make a deep run in the playoffs this year, my man.
We're going to do our best. Thanks, Will.
This is the challenge for Matt Lancaster's offense tonight. This Garaway defense has only allowed 34 points all season, 5.6 points per game, and 3 shutouts, including last week against Claymont, 38-0 win. And it's going to be an unbelievable chess match. I mean, Grady Kinsey, top 5 running back in America right now, the best in the state of Ohio, 1,400 rushing yards. And he's going up against this stout Garaway defense. And Garaway has a great running back in their own right in Dylan Sunland. I think those two guys are going to get a lot of carries. They may not throw the ball in this game. I have no idea. This might be just a running show. We'll see. But Indian Valley is going to definitely look to just establish that running game. Like I said, they rush for 400 yards a game. They're going to look to just control the clock. And Garaway is a bit more balanced offensively, with their quarterback Geibel. So we'll see what the plan of attack is. But my goodness, this is going to be a good game tonight. I am so excited. But before we get out of here, let's take a look at some other games going on in our coverage area. We'll start in East and Northeastern Ohio. Dalton, will take a trip to Rittman. Ridgewood is at Sandy Valley, and the Generals are undefeated as well in the IVC. Talmadge at Aurora. Union Local, undefeated on the season, will host Cambridge. MVR matchup between John Glenn and Morgan. New Lex and Maysville will go to battle. We're on the right side of your screen now. Meadowbrook, a win over John Glenn last week, is hosting Coshocton. Philo at Sheridan. Tri-Valley, Max Lyle breaking passing records for the Scotties last week. The Scotties hosting Riverview. West End will be at Crooksville, and Zanesville will host Licking Valley. And if we take a look on the other side of our schedule, Central and Western Ohio for Week 7, the Elks of Centerville will go to Miamisburg. Orange and Kaufman, that's going to be a good one in Columbus. Scioto hosting Franklin Heights. New Albany has played some really good games the last couple of weeks. They're going to go to Gahanna, who seems to have righted their ship. Grandview Heights at Worthington Christian. Granville, undefeated, hosting Licking Heights. Hamilton Township at Circleville. Hilliard Davidson hosting Hilliard Bradley. Jonathan Alder taking on London. Tangi hosting Marysville. Of course, Liberty and Upper Arlington, which we featured earlier in the show tonight. And then Westerville Central at Grove City. So that's what we've got on tap for you tonight. So make sure you follow us on all the socials, specifically Twitter, so that way you can get updates on all the teams that you're looking to follow. We'll tweet some score updates. I'm going to try to capture some highlights to post with score updates throughout the night. But just to kind of cap off the evening here in our show, a lot on the line tonight for both teams. Not only undefeated record, playoff positioning, seeding, IVC title, all that stuff, but some streaks are on the line. So Indian Valley averaging 48 points per game and have scored 30-plus points in each of their last 12, which is the state's longest streak. Garaway has won 28 straight games at home. They're hosting here tonight. That's the number 1 active streak. And 35 regular season games in a row they've won. That's number 2 in terms of active streaks. And then defensively, the Pirates have held 47 consecutive opponents under 30 points. That's number 1 active streak. And their last 21 under 20 points, which is tied for number 1. So utter dominance between these, both of these two teams have showed over the last couple of years. And 12-8 is the all-time series record. Garaway leading. They've won the last 4. Will they make it 5? Let's find out. But thanks so much for tuning in to Stadium Drive Week 7. We'll see you in Week 8. And thanks for being here.